Can I get the tempered fade, please? Thank you. And we're back. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, Chapter 50. Did not think I would get to Chapter 50 so quick. It is Thursday, the Vampire Killer workout. I am looking forward to doing that. I am a little tired, but it is what it is. My tricep on my right side is a little funky, but you know, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of a warm-up should make it feel better. Overall, today, feeling good, feeling great. Yesterday was my father's birthday. Had a little bit of cake, not too much, because the cut is hard and strong here. Woke up hungry, you know, always a good feeling while doing a diet here. Anyways, today we will be talking about, as you probably guessed from the thumbnail and or the title here, balding. Yes. I think I was listening to, I think it was like the NH video yesterday about Paul Carter, and he mentioned about the TRT daddies and how they happen to always be bald, always a shade of red, and have some type of beard, you know. And then it made me think of, wow, I am balding. I'm not a TRT daddy. I'm not even close to that. I don't believe in the use of exogenous hormones personally, but you know, that's a whole conversation for a different day. But just hearing him say bald, and I was like, oh shit. And then it made me think about balding and how I am balding, but also that, yeah, I shave my head frequently because I have balding. Like, I have a bald spot on the back of my head. Do I know how I got that? Not necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily genetic. I might be, but I'm not 100% sure. I think well, yeah, it is genetic, but I'm not 100% sure. It could be because of previous things that have happened to me in my life that might have caused or accelerated it. Also, baldness is pretty common. It's a common thing. Personally, I think this entire video is going to be trying to convince people to realize, mostly men. This is directed to men, mostly. Women, for the one in the audience, maybe, I have no idea. I've not looked at the metrics. This does not really apply to you. I'm sorry. You have things like wigs, so you can kind of get away with not having hair in a way. So that's a whole other story. For dudes, if they get a wig, it looks weird. So this is for most dudes. This is something that I learned the hard way because I had to let go of my hair without my consent, really. But I had to let it go, so I had to shave it all off. When it comes to hair in particular for guys, you should probably at least once in your life shave it all off. I know that seems like such a big deal because some people, they are super attached to their hair, like it is a part of them. It is like a part of their identity almost, and I feel like that can become an issue relatively quickly, especially if you start losing your hair. I would say more likely than not you can tell if you'll have a full head of hair because of your family lineage, you know, like if you see like your grandparents or something like that, and like what if they had full heads of hair and stuff like that, you'll be able to see if you're gonna have the same. But for me personally, I'm also like, you're never guaranteed for that to happen. You never know if you might you might be the one that gets the weird genetic disease that all of a sudden you start getting balding randomly. You never know. So I would say personally, something most dudes should do, if not all dudes, at least shave your head once, like close as can be to bald, or just straight up bald. Go all the way down, because then you're not super attached to your hair. There is something to be said about the attachment that you get from having your hair, and then when it's all gone, it's like you see yourself slightly different, but you don't have that same attachment. And besides, if you worry about you're gonna look stupid, your hair will grow back most likely than not, unless it doesn't. In that case, that's a whole different issue, I guess. But then again, you would already know that you're bald or balding. There are those unfortunate souls that happen to bald when they're young, like at 17, 18. Sorry for those guys, but I mean, yeah, as soon as it starts happening, just go for it. It's a learning curve, because once you go bald or starting to bald and shave your head frequently, like I do, I shave it once a month, you start to realize that it is cold outside without hair, and you need a hat most of the time. That's why I always wear hats 99% of the time. It's cold. It's just cold in general. Not because I care about being bald or showing my bald spot. In these videos, if I really cared, I'd probably wear a hat in the gym, and or I'd probably angle it so you wouldn't see my bald spot that much. But I also don't care. There are a lot of people that grow a lot of attachment to their hair and if they're balding or not, and I understand why. I get it. I'm not like saying there aren't times where I'm like, man, I could put some minoxidil on my hair and try to see if I can grow it again. But I'm also like, there are certain things to be said about growing old naturally and just letting it happen. You know what I mean? Trying to do everything to stop and claw at youth when that is relatively superficial is kind of stupid. I'm gonna just be how I say it. You're placating to the standards of society when in reality you should probably just listen to your own body and how you feel about how you look, you know? Who cares if you're balding? Most people don't give a shit if you're bald, honestly. If you have a shitty hairline, which happens, it's an unfortunate thing, but if it happens, just deal with the cards that you're dealt with. And that's why I would say go bald at least once, so then that way you know what you look like and it's not a shock to you, and you aren't putting all the stock into your hair like you have been. Many people put a lot of stock in their hair to the point where it can become an issue when they start losing it. It starts thinning. You know, that's when you see the people who start panicking, start doing like comb overs or like doing a shitload of hair treatment all for this hair. And it's just like, I understand it, like why people are attached to it, but prepare yourself to be unattached to it if it ever comes to that, because you never know. You never know what could happen. So be aware that your hair isn't permanent. So it also depends too, because there are some people out there that are also like anti-gray hairs too. So you got to be wary of that as well. Personally, I have gray hairs in my beard personally. I don't have any gray hairs in my head because I shave my head. But anyways, that is also something to be wary about as well, because there are some people who don't want to see themselves in that gray hair. And I understand that one too, but dyeing it is also a very strange thing. It's like you have to somewhat embrace whatever you're given genetically, or, you know, or whatever happens, because if not, you're just going to be stuck in a weird like spot where you're going to be hating or covering up what your natural self is like. So we'll talk more about it on the inside. Alright, so today we start off with overhead press. These have been feeling good since I've been going down in weight. I haven't been really progressing on them, but I'm still getting the same numbers, so I'm just gonna keep pushing them as much as humanly possible. So while today's subject matter is about balding particularly, I think there is something I need to say here that I forgot to say in the first part, and that is if you start balding is to not stop taking care of yourself hygiene wise and all that other jazz. I think some people kind of like maybe like it's like one of those things when they ever like get a girlfriend or like they achieve like a goal like that, they just stop trying type deal, or like if they somehow achieve their goal body, they end up just stop caring about like the progress or just continuing and maintaining it. Some people are like that with the hair, so if they don't have any more hair, they're not gonna keep trying on anything else. It can affect them that much, and don't let that happen. When I started balding, did that stop me from doing much of my routine stuff? No, not really, because I already had to do some stuff for my face and also for my beard. I just have like a routine to take care of those things. But you got to be careful about that, because some people will let their appearances judge whether or not they are continuing to taking care of themselves, either in the hygiene space and or just generally. You know, some people will be like, fuck it, I'm bald, I'm just gonna let myself go, eat whatever I want and all that other stuff. It's kind of the same with diet as well. You know, you can kind of let it go and then it'll issue down the road. Making sure you stay on top of these types of things is a key to, you know, making sure your mental health stays well as, you know, things don't degrade to the point where you just become a shadow of your former self. And that's something to be aware of. Generally, balding does suck. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, it was the best thing ever. It does suck. I hate the fact that I'm balding, but I also know that out of everything that could be possibly happening to me, it is not the worst of everything that could have happened. It sucks in that there's not much I can do about it. There are things I could go about and, like, you know, do all the next level stuff, like go get stem cells or whatever the hell whatever bullshit that there is nowadays. But I feel like a lot of that is counterproductive as to who you are. I think clinging on to youth for such a long period of time to try and hold on for dear life to the past, I think describes a lot of a person's character, where they are more attached to who they were rather than who they want to become, if that makes any sense. And I think that is a trait that shouldn't be followed by most people, because I feel it'll end up trapping most people. It's kind of like the nostalgia thing, where something was cool back in the day, like your favorite video game or whatever, but you play it now and it isn't the same. It doesn't hit the same. But that's just because, you know, we've changed from where we were. We're different people and we're looking at it from an older view. I think the same thing can be said about aging, you know, particularly, you know, you're getting older. You don't need to be beholden to the past, especially your own self-image, because I mean, realistically, the vision of yourself should change with time, but also understand that clinging on to something that in the end will probably not be beneficial for a future you, in a sense, holding you back in a way to make it so you don't progress as a person and you just hold on and keeping you in the past when you should be moving forward and progressing in that way. Even though it's just looks, but looks can cause so much of you to stay back because, you know, your body's a temple, so the outside, it does matter a lot. So you gotta let it happen naturally, you know. Clinging on to the past is a downfall for a lot of people, so you gotta be aware of that. Then obviously there's always the option of the hat if that gets you, but you know, if you let the hat become your mainstay, it becomes like your security blanket. You got to be careful about that type of stuff. And then, you know, you got to take it off eventually, and then people are gonna be like, why don't you ever take off your hat? You're gonna be the weirdo that doesn't take the hat off even at the beach or something like that. Then it's gonna be pretty obvious as to what's going on. I want to make a mention of the fact that if you do roids, that also helps you go bald very quickly, so don't do them. I don't understand why people would do them personally, but that's just me because health is probably number one in my book, I would say. But then again, there are shortcuts to many things, and then usually their training usually sucks, and or they have some weird idea of what they should look like and they just need the hormones to get there. But I don't want to get too into the steroid rant because that's a whole other story. The reason why I'm even talking about this is because I got a short the other day about this guy who went to go get stem cells for his hair because it was super thinning, but obviously he had been on roids, so that explains that. And he looks old as fuck, even though he's not even that much older than I am. I think he's only 5 years older than me, but he looks like he's 20 years older than me. So yeah, all I can say is don't do steroids, really, but as well, don't do steroids and you don't have to go get stem cells in your head, so then that way you can keep your hair if the hair really fucking matters that much. That's just me personally. You know, there are a lot of exchanges in life that people aren't willing to make because they want to have their cake and eat it too. And it's sad, really, because you can't. If there's anything I've learned in life, you can't have it all. You gotta pick one thing and stick to it and just acknowledge the fact that you didn't get the other thing, and that's it. There's no other way of putting it. There's a certain guy that I read a book about that talked about that, but I don't want to get too into that here because I might get in trouble for that one. But anyways, moral of the story is if you are balding and it really does bother you, wear a damn hat. Even if it doesn't bother you, you should wear a hat anyway. Trust me, it's gonna get cold. You'd be surprised how cold and strong the sun is when you don't have any hair. It is quite the astonishment. For me personally, I remember when I had one winter with no beard. I had to get a scarf. My face was on fire half the time. I did not realize it was that cold outside without a beard. So it does do a lot. You'd be surprised. So just be aware of that. But shave your head at least one time in your life so that way you can take ownership of your head. Don't worry if you have a weird head shape. No one really cares. Honestly, as long as you don't look like a human thumb, which can happen if you are bald, but also at the same time you can just be a big dude and look like a thumb, but you'll be an intimidating thumb, so who gives a fuck at that point? Shave your head once. And we're back. Hello and welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed. Dumbbell skull crushers. I actually finally did them. I did a couple of sets. My right tricep was hurting a little bit, so I was like, all right, let me just do it as a little bit of a reparative sets. I didn't record it because it was like, whatever, I want to get these done as quickly as humanly possible. So I just did them like that. And then exercises, skip none, got everything in. I was even going to skip a couple, but then I decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do everything I can. So I did everything I could, and there you go. Everything was done. I am super tired right now. I am feeling it like crazy right now. Like all of a sudden the fatigue just hit like whoomp all at once. I have to deal with that. I'm gonna go home and cook with my arms here. But as I was saying for a while there, cooked beyond belief the entire upper body today, but still feeling good, feeling good. So to kind of wrap up the discussion about balding, or just generally, personally, it sucks that I'm balding, but I also know that it happens. It's not anything to worry about. You can try to cling on to like the youth. I think when a man tries to cling on to their youth by any means necessary, now there are some areas in life where of course it makes sense if you want to do something like that, like if you have a job where you need to have like a visual presentation for yourself. So like I know that like in wrestling, Vince McMahon didn't like gray hair, so he would make people dye their hair in order to make it so they have black hair and they look younger. So then you get people who look ridiculous like Kevin Nash, Ash, who normally has gray hair, but now has to dye his hair black and just looks weird. So there is stuff like that where people will be required to dye their hair or try to look younger for whatever reason. But particularly for dudes here, I would say that you're going at it the wrong way. You know what I mean? What you do is you get the cards that life hands you or life deals with you and try to maximize those rather than trying to force your own hand in there, because realistically you're not going to have a good time when you do that. I mean, and you're just going to look ridiculous. Let's be real here. You can tell when people like dye their hair or are trying to cling on to the youth that they once had and stuff. It's like, all right, I get it, I understand why people do it, but you got to let it just happen naturally, because if you do, there is something to be said about that where you exude a little bit more of a confidence in yourself because you happen to have this X, Y, or Z. And that's why I would say most people should at least try doing the bald thing once, so that way they can have ownership of their own body. So before their insecurities and stuff take control of them, they have control of their insecurities and stuff. Sure, you might have a weird looking head, but you won't even know until you shave your head. So I'd recommend most people do it. Be in control of your own body before it controls you, and you never know what could happen. So I'll say that. I had a very big life change that made it so I had to go from my old hair to now hair. So it is what it is. Now from there, my hairstyle changed completely, and then I just started balding. So I called it a day and started shaving my head. But like I said, just be aware of your family lineage, because I could tell you everything you need to know and whether or not you actually need to or not. But at the same time, I highly would recommend everybody shave their head at least once. But with that being said, what do you think in the comments below? I would like to know your thoughts, opinions, share any stories, any bald stories, any times that you had a terrible haircut and you just said, fuck it, I'm going bald. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you on the next one tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much. Peace. Have a good day. Peace.